Now, the issues facing California.
Homelessness, the economy,
serious climate change challenges.
The candidates.
The politicians are mucking it up.
This crisis exceeds the current governor's ability to deal with it.
We shouldn't have career politicians in politics.
I think the most important job of our next governor is to make it less important who the governor is.
Tonight, information voters across California need to make informed decisions. Live from California's capital, KCRA and the San Francisco Chronicle present the California Recall Debate.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Gulston Dart. Right now, voters across California are deciding two questions. First, should Governor Gavin Newsom be recalled? And second, if he is recalled, who should replace him? Which is why we are here tonight. We invited Governor Newsom and 6 leading candidates looking to replace him. The governor's campaign said that he's not taking part in debates. Larry Elder and Caitlyn Jenner said that they will only debate the governor. Well, tonight, we're joined by 4 candidates who did accept. Kevin Kiley is a Republican. He graduated valedictorian from Granite Bay High School. He's currently a member of the State Assembly representing the 6th District. Kevin Paffrath is a Democrat. He appears on the ballot as a financial educator analyst, and he may be better known by his YouTube channel, Meet Kevin. He has also worked as a real estate broker. Kevin Faulconer is a Republican. He appears on the ballot as a businessman and an educator. He's a former city council member and mayor of San Diego. And John Cox is a Republican. He appears on the ballot as a businessman, accountant, and father. He ran for governor in 2018 and lost to Gavin Newsom. Those are the candidates. Now to the questions, and we want to hear from you, so scan the QR code you see on your screen to send us questions for the candidates. Our moderators tonight are Alexei Koseff, San Francisco Chronicle Capital correspondent, and KCRA3's Deirdre Fitzpatrick. And based on a random drawing, our first question goes to Kevin Faulconer. Deirdre.
All right, Gulston, thank you. So by agreement, you gentlemen have agreed to have 1 minute to answer these questions. And for our viewers at home, they will know that their minute is up because on the floor, which you cannot see, is a red light, green light system. So when the light is green, you're free to talk. You'll see a yellow, which means start wrapping it up. When you get to red, you're supposed to be done talking. And if you get past that, Lexi and I we'll find a nice way to try to start cutting you off. So let's get to our first questions. We did ask people all over California to submit questions. We had well over 400 questions come in. We won't ask all of them, but no surprise, one of the top things people want to talk about is something that affects every single person on the planet, everybody in this room right now, and that is coronavirus. So we'll talk about the pandemic and vaccine mandates to start us off today. So this week, the FDA gave full authorization to the Pfizer vaccine for those who are 16 and older. So now that it's no longer under the emergency use status authorization, what is your position on vaccine mandates, both in the private sector and in the public sector? And it is worth pointing out that all 4 of our candidates tonight are vaccinated. So we will, as Gulston said, start with Kevin Faulconer.
That's it. Thank you. I am vaccine. That vaccine, number one way that we can get over COVID-19 is to have everyone get the vaccine. As I said, my family's vaccinated, my wife, my kids. I think it's incredibly important, and particularly in this now that we're seeing FDA approval, that we continue to educate and educate the benefits of getting that vaccine. And that's something that I've been strongly advocating for all of these many months, ever since obviously the vaccines came out. And I feel really strongly that our best opportunity is indeed to educate. We're not going to mandate our way out of COVID-19. While I was mayor of San Diego, I really stood up against the statewide mandates that we saw from Governor Newsom. One-size-fits-all policy. We want everybody to be healthy. We want everybody to be safe. But the best way to do that is to educate folks, to get that vaccine, and that is the best way that we are all going to get over this together as Californians.
So to be clear, you're against mandates both in the for the public and then also in the private sector as well. No mandates.
And our best opportunity, again, is to get everybody vaccinated. We're not going to do it by mandating. You need to educate.
Okay, next up is Kevin Paffrath. Same question.
Thank you very much. Albert Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. The reality is, the vaccine is very important. However, Oxford University just told us last week that transmission still occurs in vaccinated individuals. Now, I encourage everyone to get vaccinated. My family is vaccinated, but my 3- and 5-year-old are not because they can't yet get the vaccine. And so we need to do something different if we want to end this pandemic. We need to also include an emphasis on HEPA filtration in our schools. There's a reason our planes are still flying. We don't need lockdowns to end this pandemic. What we need is proper education, like Mr. Faulkner has said, potentially even incentives of up to $250 for a new vaccinated adult. But if we still spread COVID from vaccinated individuals, we must also make sure we lessen the burden on our hospitals by ensuring that every building in our state has a proper HEPA filtration and we use proper masking to end this pandemic.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the same follow-up question, just to be clear. No mandates, private sector or public sector?
I do agree with mandates. I agree with mandates at a local level, though, not from the governor's office. I'm going to be very clear about this. I believe every individual business has the constitutional right, and every individual building has the right to determine their own mandate rules. That means every individual school, hospital can determine vaccine mandates themselves.
Thank you. Kevin Kiley, your turn.
Well, as I was watching your station, KCRA, before the debate started, I saw a commercial from Gavin Newsom against the recall. And he had this dire warning that if the recall succeeds, then these mandates are going to go away and COVID's going to spread, which was kind of an odd thing to say because the mandates didn't exist until a week or two ago. We're the only state that has them, and they haven't even gone into effect yet. So it's clearly a campaign issue. And that's the way that Gavin Newsom has treated COVID from the beginning. He's politicized it. I'll give you a very clear example of that. Last year in October, when Newsom thought it was good politics, he cast doubt on the vaccine. He said that we couldn't take the FDA's word for whether it was safe. The chair of the United States Senate Health Committee had to write him a letter telling him to cut it out. He said that Newsom was attacking the career scientists at the FDA, that he was discouraging Americans from taking the vaccine, and he was costing lives. And then when it came time to actually roll out the vaccine, we had the slowest rollout of any state. The governor didn't prioritize seniors, and when they did become eligible, they'd spend all day on the phone trying to get an appointment and couldn't get one. It's been exactly the opposite of the way the approach should have been.
And John Cox.
I agree with Mr. Kiley. I won't call him Kevin because we have too many Kevins here. Listen, the politicians will politicize this, and that's what they've done. And I'm a businessman. I want to solve the problem. And mandates aren't going to solve the problem. I've been vaccinated. My family's been vaccinated. I believe in the vaccine. It comes from the private sector. It's well tested, and I believe it's good. I'd like to see the vaccine approved not only for adults, but I'd like to see it approved for children as well. And I think that's going to happen very soon. But I think the reticence of people to get vaccinated is all about the lack of trust in government. And Gavin Newsom is Exhibit A in that situation. This, not just his hypocritical dinner at the French Laundry, which demonstrated that he doesn't think the rules apply to him, but it's also the no-bid contracts, the no-bid contract to Blue Cross to botch up the vaccine distribution that Mr. Kiley referred to, the raising of money for his wife's foundation from PG&E, which literally has killed people. This erodes trust. And when people don't have trust in their leadership, they don't listen to leaders when the leaders tell them that they should do something. I don't believe in mandates. I don't believe in mask mandates. I am not interested in having that. I believe in freedom. I believe in the Constitution that guarantees us freedom.
Thank you, John Cox. Appreciate it. Let's move on to the second viewer question regarding coronavirus.
Several of you have expressed opposition to mask mandates in schools, as well as other public health measures that Governor Newsom has adopted to combat the pandemic. Now that we're in the middle of another surge, what steps would you take to slow the spread of the virus moving forward? Kevin Paffrath, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. Well, first and foremost, we need better masks. Facial coverings are a failure. Dr. Scott Gottlieb tells us that facial coverings themselves are no better than 20 to 30% effective. The reality is, we need N95 masking. The CDC and government has failed us in providing science-based evidence that we should not use these. If you go to the CDC's website right now, they say don't use N95s. They should be reserved for healthcare workers. I believe that is a mistake. And as governor, I will provide N95 respirators, these masks, to individuals who need them in our state who cannot afford them. I will make sure we have an appropriate supply of masks that are well fitted for our children and the people of our state. So with proper ventilation, we can actually end COVID. And again, I'm for vaccination, but what you just heard from the other three candidates on the stage, and what you hear from the other candidates who are too afraid to be here tonight to stand in front of the California people, is nothing about ventilation and new ideas. It's more of the same, and that's why we're failing with COVID. I will change that as governor.
Thank you very much. Kevin Kiley, what steps would you take?
I would follow the approach that other states have taken, which is to have a balanced approach and to place trust in citizens. And when you look at the issue of masks, we're in the minority of states that has a statewide mandate. And you look at other countries like the United Kingdom, they've said, we're not going to do masks for elementary school students, or we're not going to require it, because the harms to a child's development far outweigh any benefits. And those benefits aren't even very clearly established. And it's almost certainly the case that the effect on a child of wearing a mask all day varies a lot from child to child, which is why this decision should be in the hands of parents. But we're talking about mask right now, but let's not forget the fact that California shut down its schools longer than any other state in the country. We were 50th out of 50 in getting our kids back to school. Was that because that was the safe thing to do? No, Gavin Newsom knew it wasn't the safer thing to do. He sent his own kids to in-person private school. It was rather that we have a special interest in this state, the teachers' unions, that gives more money to political office holders than any other group, and has given more money to Gavin Newsom than anyone. And so that's why I think there's a level of distrust that exists in a lot of what the government is doing, because clearly neither public health nor the interests of our kids has been guiding policymaking.
So you've spoken for the past minute about something you're opposed to, which is mask mandates, but what steps would you take moving forward to slow the spread of the virus?
I would rebuild the trust that Gavin Newsom has lost through the steps I've just outlined, the way that he's politicized the vaccine, the way he's politicized things like masks, the way that he shut down our schools for no good reason. I would say I'm going to start serving the people of California. I think when we rebuild that trust, people are more than able to take the measures they need to protect themselves.
Thank you very much. John Cox, what steps would you take?
Well, I agree with rebuilding the trust. People should trust in the vaccine. They don't, because they don't trust Gavin Newsom. They don't trust the politicians. And you know, we need to be honest with people about this disease. This is an awful disease. I got it early on. The Chinese should certainly be held accountable for failure to warn us about it, as well as possibly of developing it themselves. But we have to deal with it, and that's the problem. See, the politicians never consider the costs of any activity they engender. They whipped up a whole lot of fear among people. And certainly, this disease is certainly not a great disease, but it's 99.9% survivable. Certainly, we should protect the vulnerable. Certainly, we should protect people with pre-existing conditions. But what we should do is be honest with people. This disease has animal reservoirs. Smallpox didn't. We're not going to get rid of this disease. So we've got to encourage people to trust the vaccine, get the vaccine, so if they do get the disease, it's not going to be as serious, and that's the best we can.
So, are there any specific steps that you had in mind beyond rebuilding trust with the public?
Again, I look at the costs. You know, we can eliminate all highway deaths if we all drove at 10 miles an hour. Well, we're not about to do that. Governor Newsom shut down small businesses. He shut our kids out of school. Places like Florida kept their businesses open. Disney World was open in July.
Thank you.
Disneyland just opened in April. So, the destruction of small businesses, the destruction to our children's psyche is also serious, too.
Thank you for your answer. And Kevin Faulconer, are there any steps that you would take moving forward to slow the spread of the virus?
I think the most important thing is to let our local school districts, working with parents, make the right decisions based upon the facts of the ground in that community. I think one of the things that you've heard very clearly is that Gavin Newsom his first step is to say, let's have a statewide mandate. Our state's very big, it's very diverse. That's the wrong approach. Again, we need to have parents and school district members working together. But I'll tell you, our schools should have been open this past semester. The fact that this governor shut down our schools for as long as he did. I mean, I kicked off my campaign in Los Angeles in front of a closed public school, and right across the street was an open private school, where teachers were safely teaching and kids were safely learning. Why? Because that school reported to parents. But yet the public school, where I was at, which ultimately reports to Gavin Newsom, was closed. My daughter should have been in school this past semester, just like everybody else's kids across California. In the classroom, safely learning, with great teachers doing it. Zoom was no substitute. We had a governor that didn't understand that. We're still dealing with those consequences now.
Thank you. And just quickly again, are there any specific steps that you would take to slow the spread of the virus in California?
I think all the great steps that we have seen. We have seen our local districts with our great teachers working with our parents in terms of social distancing, in terms of all the hygiene things that you have to do. Make those decisions locally, not, again, a statewide mandate coming from the governor to shut our schools down.
Thank you very much.
It is not a surprise we're in a severe drought and that many of California's water reservoirs are at record low levels. Would you mandate restrictions on water use to get California through this season? If so, how would you actually enforce them? And if not, what would you do to address the very dry months that we have ahead of us? And we'll start this time with Kevin Kiley.
I would not do so. Rationing should not be an option. And you mentioned the reservoirs are low. They were overflowing just a few years ago. So if we had political leaders who were exercising any semblance of political leadership, we would have figured this out a long time ago. Maybe we should find a way to save the water in the wet years so that we can use it in the dry years. What I've proposed is a constitutional amendment that will say that from this point forward, a fixed amount of our state budget is going to go towards projects to increase our water supply, towards dams, towards reservoirs, towards conveyance, to reuse, towards desalination, until we add 5 million acre feet to our annual water supply. And by the way, there'd be protections from litigation as well, and it would make sure the funding is actually used for that purpose. You know, we haven't significantly expanded our water capacity here in California since the State Water Project. We have more than enough water that comes to us by the grace of God. We just need to manage it responsibly, you know, and scarcity and rationing and cutbacks are political choices. And if we make different choices, then we'll end this era of shorter showers and fallow fields in California.
Those are long-term ideas. What do you do for the next 6 months till the rain is back?
Well, I'd point you to, for example, a letter that a Democrat in the Assembly, Adam Gray, wrote to the Water Board, telling them not to impose these cutbacks on farmers and pointing to other solutions, like a lot of the environmental regulations that cause us to divert water from productive use.
All right, John Cox.
Yeah, this is another one of the management problems that the politicians and the celebrities and the insiders who have run this state for too long have caused. I mean, this is a management issue. This is not a political issue. If you need water, which we do, we need water to live, we need water to farm, we need water for every use, you make sure that you have the water available. You don't just sit and blame climate change and not do anything about it. I'm a businessman, I'm going to solve the problem. And of course, what that means is that we have to do things like desalination, recycling programs, and reservoirs. And I agree, right now we are in a problem because of the lack of management skill, and the politicians are to blame for it. You know, we've passed 2 water bonds in the last 10 years, and they've yet to spend most of the money from those water bonds. This is, the voters have spoken. They said we want water stored, and you know, another constitutional amendment isn't going to do the job. We need to get just better leadership.
Kevin Faulkner.
The only solution we get from Gavin Newsom every time we're in a drought is take a shorter shower. That's not going to cut it. We have to build more storage. We have to increase the supply in California. In fact, just last week I had the pleasure to be up in Maxwell, about an hour north, meeting with folks on the Sites Reservoir. We have to turn that into reality. We have the ability to do not only that, but Temperance Flat down further south in the valley. We have to increase our supply. And for a governor to just give lip service to that, but not actually take the steps and the emergency steps necessary to get these reservoirs going, I think is unconscionable. And it has to be an all of the above approach. And I have a lot of experience of that is when I was mayor of San Diego. We moved forward on one of the biggest water recycling programs right now going on in the state of California. We have desalination in San Diego County. Strong proponent and supporter of that. And so instead of what we see from Gavin Newsom, every single year, take a shorter shower, cut back. We have to get smart, increase the supply. We know what needs to be done. I will have the experience and the political will to get it done.
But what do you do the day after you become governor when people don't have water? Because reservoirs take years to build. What do you do for those months in between?
I will move immediately on building reservoirs day one. Temperance Flat, and I told not only that, in Sites Reservoir as well. These have been on the books forever. We have funding in the water bonds, but we haven't had the political will to move forward. We have to start. I will start on my first day as governor.
Right. Kevin Paffrath, same question.
Thank you very much. Well, much of what we've heard here about solving our water crisis is the same old that we've heard. A lot of complaining, the same thing that we heard with our COVID plans. The folks on the stage with me did not have strong plans, and they each had to be asked follow-up questions for what their actual plans would be. We need emergency action when it comes to our water crisis. On day one, I will declare a state of emergency to begin the construction as soon as feasibly possible of a pipeline to the Mississippi River. We will build an interstate pipeline by coordinating with Joe Biden and the federal government. Now, this sounds outlandish, but we have a massive problem. Researchers and PhDs have come up with a solution. It would take just 14 power plants to pump water here. We can buy cheaper, cleaner water. There's enough federal land between here and there, with the exception of Texas, where we're going to rent land. And we're going to double the flow of water to the Mississippi River. We need strong ideas, and that's why I am polling better than all three candidates on the stage combined in August. Both polls in August, I poll better than all three combined by a 4 to 9% margin, because my plans will work.
Have you explored cooperation with these other states to do something like that?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. We have spoken with a lot of folks about our plans, but what I want to be very clear about first is I stand for win-win negotiations. I recognize that we're not just going to take water, but we also do desal, conservation, wells. We're going to do everything. All hands on deck. But we need more water. We need to double the flow of water to the Colorado River. It would only take 4% of the water from the Mississippi.
Well, from water, we're going to go to fire now.
Yes, we're in the middle of another record-breaking wildfire season, which has leveled towns and a destroyed property all over the state. Do you favor restricting new development in high fire risk zones? John Cox, we'll come to you first.
No, I don't. I favor better management to deal with the fires. This is, again, another problem of the politicians and the celebrities who have run this state into the ground. We solve the problem. And how do we do that? We manage the forest. We go in and we get rid of the kindling, the dead trees and all these things that are going to cause fires to become infernos. We also revive the timber industry, which has been run out of this state. They did a lot of the forest management before they were run out of the state. And then we need to have new ideas like a Air Force. I saw today there's a new fire in Grass Valley. I mean, if we had decent Air Force, if we weren't spending $4 million a day on that train to nowhere in the Central Valley, I propose taking that money and buying or leasing a whole bunch of jets. There's never been more jets available than any time in history. Outfit them with tanks and make sure you go after these fires and put them out before they become infernos.
That money for the train was set aside by a constitutional amendment passed by voters. Do you favor going back to the ballot to redirect that money toward wildfires?
Yeah, if necessary. But I tell you what, that project is way over budget, way behind schedule. It's a honeypot for all kinds of interest groups that are making money out of it, and the taxpayers are footing the bill. It's wrong.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Faulconer, do you favor restricting development in high fire risk zones?
I favor putting our state on a war footing when it comes to wildfire. And what we see from Gavin Newsom year after year is rhetoric. They'll go out and talk about climate change, but he won't take action. He won't take action what we need to here in California to do it. And so that's why I believe we have to, and I will declare a state of emergency as governor, to move forward immediately on the fuel reduction that hasn't been occurring in our forests that need to, on the brush management, on all of the emergency ingress and egress, the fire exits that haven't been constructed, because this governor won't do it. And what did he do? He cut the funding from CAL FIRE last year. And then he also went out and tried to take credit for treating acres of forest that never actually happened. I'm going to treat this as the emergency that it is, because lives are literally at stake. And if we do not actually get in and reduce those fuels, do that brush management, providing a tax credit for home hardening, that's the only way we're actually going to make a difference on this in California. And again, it starts by saying we have to change it immediately, put our state on a war footing for wildfire prevention.
So just quickly, yes or no, do you favor restrictions on development?
I favor giving the increases that we want for folks to do their home hardening, and we need to do that in all the legislation that's out there. It works.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Paffrath, same question to you.
I'll answer the question. No, I do not favor restrictions. I favor doing what our governor said he was going to do. Now, I understand I'm running as a Democrat, and I encourage people to vote yes on that second question for Kevin Paffrath as a backup. But here's the reality. I have a bone to pick with Governor Newsom. He overstated fire prevention by 690%. He was exposed by NPR for doing that. The day he was exposed, we had Governor Newsom's administration try to cover up that they ever made that promise, which is news that came out last week. But look, here's the reality. The Economist told us that in 2017, Portugal had devastating wildfires, then conducted controlled burns at a cost of just $35 an acre versus the $1,500 an acre it cost to fight wildfires. and then they didn't have a devastating wildfire since. And that's what we need. We need a governor who's actually going to do what he says he's going to do. But I don't think that could be a Republican. That's because we have a 75% Democratic control in Congress. And Democrats in Congress will sandbag a Republican governor through the 2022 election by overriding vetoes from a Republican governor, by overriding emergency action, and overriding or delaying appointments. This is why we need a JFK-style Democrat. Vote Kevin Paffrath.
Thank you. Kevin Kiley, do you favor restricting new development in high fire risk zones?
I will agree with my namesake, and I want to thank him for underlining something that is abundantly clear to everyone except Gavin Newsom, which is that this is not a partisan recall. This has been bipartisan, multi-partisan from the beginning. It's about the failures of our government to do the most basic things, like manage our forests. And the result, of course, is that our communities are at risk, and we keep having these catastrophic events. So I don't think it's necessary to restrict development there, Alexi. I think that in the areas where there's an unavoidably high risk, people are not going to be eager to build. And there are plenty of places to build. But I will say this, that's an entirely different story for folks who already live in areas that have become high risk thanks to the state's negligence. We have many, many people in this state whose fire insurance rates have doubled, have tripled more. They've lost their coverage. They've had to go to the California FAIR plan, and it's imposed a real economic hardship. Their homes have become unsaleable. And I do think those folks need tax relief. It should come in the form of a tax credit, which I actually proposed in the legislature. But the larger issue is that we need to actually start prioritizing forest management. We have 15 to 20 million acres of overgrown forest in this state, and we're seeing the tragic results of it year after year.
Thank you very much.
Our next question is another one that viewers submitted, and it has to do with housing affordability. Spoiler alert, they think it's really expensive to live in our state. So some Democrats have pushed to make it more affordable and easier to build small apartment buildings in residential areas and neighborhoods, or to turn unused commercial property into residential housing. So would you sign a package of bills to allow those kinds of changes to happen? And we start this time with Kevin Faulconer.
Our state is too expensive, first and foremost, and people are voting with their feet. They're leaving our state because they can't raise their family. They can't afford a home. Gavin Newsom appointed himself as the homeless czar, the housing czar, right? Everything under the sun, but yet doesn't take the action necessary to actually construct the units. A lot of experience in that. As mayor of San Diego, I brought together Democrats and Republicans to pass one of the most significant reforms to help increase housing in San Diego, increase the supply where we want it along our transit corridors. We called it Complete Communities. It's going to make a huge difference. I eliminated the regulatory burdens to construct that, eliminated things like parking requirements to make it easier so you can get more units. I have the experience in actually not only getting these plans there, but getting them across the finish line. In this case, a supermajority Democrat city council. We have to make housing more affordable in California, and I will take the same types of steps that I took as mayor, those immediate steps that says we're going to cut through the bureaucracy, we're going to build more homes, we're going to build them where we want them to be, which is along our transit corridors, and we can actually do it.
All right, we'll go to Kevin Paffrath. You certainly have a lot of YouTube videos on topics like this. Where do you stand on it?
California currently builds just 80,000 housing units per year. To break even with our housing disaster, we need to be building 300,000 homes per year. That's to break even. Kevin Faulconer mentions that we should build along our transit corridors. That's not enough. That's not enough. It's not that it will create a drop in the bucket for our housing crisis. Doesn't help that when you had a real estate deal in San Diego, 101 Ash, you understated repairs and that ended up costing $115 million than you stated they would. $115 million more. Here's what we need to do. We need to build hundreds of thousands of homes throughout California, ideally 500,000 homes per year. There are 482 cities in this state. We build them outside of our large cities. We'll average them out. We will have affordable housing again. That way we're not affecting housing prices within our city, but instead we're providing an affordable option outside of our cities. And then we can have better infrastructure to connect these homes. We will also make these communities net negative by building them near and around solar and wind farms. But we must build more houses fast by streamlining the permitting process and enabling Californians to build.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, no.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
I'm happy to. It's not the time for on-the-job training for YouTube. Somebody that's never actually had to get legislation across, actually had to get the units constructed and built, and actually take the stance to get housing constructed in California. think that's a clear difference between you and me, my friend. And that's why it's important that we elect a governor that can actually hit the ground on day one, who has success working with Democrats and Republicans to actually get housing across the finish line like we did in San Diego that will help 100,000 new units to make it more affordable for our families. It's not time to test drive. It's time to actually have somebody who has the experience to do it.
All right, it's Kevin Kiley's turn. I'll remind you.
I'm sorry, I should respond to that.
We're going to move to Kevin Kiley. The question to remind you is, would you sign a package of bills to make changes, including building small apartment buildings within existing residential neighborhoods or turning unused commercial properties into housing?
Well, it's hard to commit to signing or not signing a bill in the abstract. There's a lot of things we need to be doing about housing. Some of the ideas you mentioned may have merit, but fundamentally, this is the issue more than any other that is the reason the American dream is falling apart in California. This used to be the state where anyone could get ahead. It's now the state that so many people can't wait to leave behind. Last year, for the first time in California history, our population declined by 182,000 people. We just lost a seat in Congress based upon the last census. Now, Gavin Newsom came into office. He ran for the governorship, claiming that he'd do a Marshall Plan for housing, but he's produced nothing of the sort. As a matter of fact, he's delivered 1/5 of the units that he promised. Now, you'll get other states, they can get projects off the ground in weeks and for thousands of dollars that in California take years and cost millions of dollars. That's the reason we don't have the housing supply that we need. And there are very simple reforms we can make to get the results that other states do. Reforming CEQA, rolling back the costs that add $150,000 to the price of a home before the project even gets off the ground, certainly streamlining the approval process.
Okay, the last person to answer this question is John Cox.
Well, I've been in the housing business for over 40 years, so I have the experience, and I'm not a politician. And the politicians have jawboned about this for years. You know, this isn't just a supply issue. That's certainly part of the issue, but it's the cost of building, and Mr. Kiley referred to it. I build for a living. Most of my building is done in Indiana. I can build there for $125 a square foot. Here in California, it's $450, $500 a foot. You can build 300,000 units all you want, but you're never going to make it affordable when it's that expensive. And it's driven up, as Mr. Kiley said, by CEQA, by the impact fees, by the lawsuits. I can get approvals in 6 to 12 months in Indiana, and I assure you the people in Indiana care about the environment, they care about traffic, they care about building standards, and it's not the cost of the land that's the difference, because when you're building multifamily, the cost of the land isn't significant. We need to get somebody who has experience, can bring down the cost of housing, because it is killing families and their ability to live in this state. It's all about families.
But many of the regulations that you refer to are in place to protect things like air, water, and labor. Is there one regulation you would look to end first?
Well, like I said, the people of Indiana care about the air, water, and labor as well. They managed to approve property building in 6 to 12 months, not 12 years like here. They certainly have high standards as well, but they managed to get and it's done like that all across the country. California is the outlier here, and I think we all need to understand that.
Thank you.
And it's because of the politicians and the celebrities that we've had running the state.
We're going to move on to the next question. One of the biggest debates to emerge from the recent racial justice protests is whether the state should be able to strip law enforcement officers of their badges when they break the law. California is one of only 4 states in the country where there is no statewide process to do this, but there is a bill moving through the legislature right now that would make that change. Would you sign it? Kevin Paffrath, first to you.
Well, first of all, I have 3,000 hours of experience in law enforcement, and I support our law enforcement community, but I also understand there are problems in law enforcement. We need a massive community-style policing package in our legislature to make sure we can reform law enforcement. And I would consider exactly what you've just asked me. Crime, Proposition 4757, we've got problems. We need to enforce the law. We don't need to defund the police. We need to properly fund the police, not overfund the police. And that's what I stand for. Now, I'd like to respond to the claim of experience. I have 11 years working in real estate, and my experience doesn't include ripping off my city. It also doesn't include a disdain for transparency or such a disdain for California that you prefer to invest in real estate outside of California. All of the properties I own are in California. I respect the experience I have in real estate here. The reality is, I am a JFK-style Democrat who can work with our Democratic legislature. A vote for any Republican, including the ones who are not here, is a wasted vote. And whether you are yes or no on recall, you should vote for Kevin Paffrath and see my full plan at meetkevin.com.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Kiley, would you sign a police decertification bill?
Well, I will answer that question, Alexi. Let me just say first that, I believe there is room for criminal justice reform and police reform where appropriate. I authored a bill that brought together the ACLU and law enforcement to provide transparency for grand jury proceedings in officer-involved shooting cases. And for example, in the Breonna Taylor case, after there was the decision not to move forward there, the family wanted to see the transcript. If that had taken place in California, they could have because of my bill. Now, with respect to the specific bill that you're talking about, I think that everyone agrees there needs to be a fair process, but I can't just commit to whatever the bill may be at this point in time. In my years in the legislature, I've spent 5 years in the legislature. I can tell you that these things are a sort of a moving target a lot of times as they wend their way through the legislature. But the larger issue is this, that we have had a policy towards our law enforcement in California that has been incredibly disrespectful. I mean, the slogan "defund the police" is one of the most offensive political slogans ever concocted. And I think that at the end of the day, we need to restore the reverence and respect for law enforcement that they deserve, and also put public safety first in our communities again at a time when crime rates are rising.
Okay, thank you very much. John Cox, would you sign a police decertification bill?
We need to get the politics out of this. We need to make sure that we have the most professional law enforcement force that we can muster. And that means we need to get the politicians out of the picture. We need to make sure, certainly, that we have a transparent process that weeds out people that abuse their badge. That's a very rare occurrence, by the way. And I think it stains a lot of the people that already serve. I mean, my law partner has a son in the police, and he says he doesn't understand how his son continues to serve because of all the abuse that they're getting. The politics gets into this, and we don't have the leadership that stands up and defends the police. 99.9% of whom do a good job. They deserve our respect. We certainly have to have body cameras and make sure that we go after police who abuse their power, but that is such a rare occurrence. I agree, defund the police is not the way that we should go. We need to get rid of 47 and 57. We need to enforce the law, make sure that crime is punished. That's the first role of government.
So this question was about a process to strip law enforcement officers of their badges when they break the law. So just to be clear, do you support that concept or not?
I certainly think that a police officer who is found in a professional hearing that's not politicized, found to have committed a crime or abused his power, certainly should be stripped. I don't believe it should be run from the state down. I don't believe in top-down policies.
So that's a no on a statewide process. No. Okay, thank you. Kevin Faulkner, same question.
I stood up during a very difficult time in our city. I had hundreds of protesters out in front of my house yelling at me, my family, defund the police. I stood up and said no. I hired the first female police chief in the history of San Diego. We were selected as the nation's safest big city in America. Why? Because I understand that balance and what you have to do to protect your city and actually bring people together in a safe way. It takes character and judgment. I'm going to take this opportunity because one of the people that is not here tonight, Larry Elder, does not have the character, the judgment, the skill set, or the experience to be governor. And I've been very outspoken this week, and I'm going to take one more opportunity to do so. His attack on working women is unconscionable. To all of the working moms out there, know that with Kevin Faulkner as your governor, I'm going to support your right to raise a family, to have a career. Unlike what Larry Elder is talking about, I'm going to make sure that California's daughters have the same opportunities as California's sons. We need a governor that's going to stand up for working women and knows that every woman in this state can have a career, can raise a family. And to all the working moms out there right now, I want to say one thing. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. We value you. We can't wait to work with you as governor.
Is there a specific policy promoting gender equality that you would try to pursue as governor?
It is, and we talk a lot about the opportunity for equal pay. That's incredibly important. I promoted some women into the top management positions in our city as I was mayor. I understand how important that is.
What about as governor rather than looking back on your time as mayor?
Equal pay, it's going to be a strong point. I'll be talking more about that later this week, as a matter of fact.
Our next question has to deal with tax cuts. Many Californians believe the cost of living is too high in the state. sure that is not a surprise to you. What would you do to make California more affordable? And for those of you who have proposed tax cuts, please be specific about how you would make up for the loss in revenue. And this time we start with Kevin Kiley.
Well, we do need to lower taxes, and you don't need to make up for the loss in revenue. I mean, I talk to people who hate the taxes, but they say, look, if I was at least getting something in return for it in terms of the quality of government service, then I'd be okay with it. I mean, you know, Gavin Newsom just signed a $267 billion budget, by far the largest in state history. The budget has more than doubled in just the last decade. Yet do you look around and say, wow, look at these beautiful reservoirs and dams we have. Look at our perfectly paved roads. Look at our sterling public schools. No, of course not. Everything has continued to get worse. The quality of life in California has continued to decline. That is the story of modern California as epitomized by Gavin Newsom, that we sacrifice the most and get the least in return. And why is that? It's because I've seen this in my 5 years in the legislature, that our state government is fundamentally broken. And what has broken it is political corruption. We have a state capitol that is entirely run by lobbyists and special interests, which is why I'm the only elected official at the state level in California that refuses all special interest funding, because we need to get back to the idea of government by the people.
John Cox, yes or no on tax cuts?
I proposed the largest tax cut in the history of California, across the board, 25%. This state taxes its people way too much. It's not just the income tax, it's the corporate tax. The sales tax is one of the highest in the country. The gas tax is one of the highest in the country. Our gasoline prices are now approaching $6 a gallon in most of California. The cost of living is way too high. It's literally killing families and forcing them to break up and move to other states, and the parents then have to move themselves. The real problem is spending. I'm a CPA. And I can't wait to get my hands on this budget. I practice zero-based budgeting in my own businesses. I've done that for 40 years. You start at zero. You don't just take last year's budget and add money to it. When I'm the governor, I'm going to have to appoint 3,000 political appointees. That's ridiculous. We shouldn't have that many appointees. We shouldn't have most of the boards and commissions we have. We're going to have an audit of every single agency, starting with the EDD, and we just learned of a homeless audit that was blistering in terms of its criticism of Governor Newsom that was just released today. They have no idea what they're spending the money on. It takes too long to get done, and they have no idea if it's even helping homelessness. This has got to change.
We move to Kevin Faulconer. Where do you stand on tax cuts?
We have to give Californians the relief that they deserve. Yet our state is too expensive. People are leaving. And everyone who's listening to us tonight understands that we need to let you keep more of your hard-earned tax dollars in your own pocket, not send it to Sacramento. And that's the same thing that we get from Gavin Newsom in the legislature year after year. Send more money. The fact that we're at a $70 billion surplus, I've proposed the largest middle-class tax cut in California history. One reason, to make sure that folks are being able to keep that so they can afford to live here in our great state. And it's significant. What do we have? We have Gavin Newsom going around, giving out a stimulus check, $600, and thinking that that's the be-all, end-all. It's not. It's not even close. We need permanent, lasting tax relief. And my plan is real dollars in people's pockets. Enough for 8 months of grocery, 8 months of utility bills, 92 tanks of gas. And that's just for starters. We've got to stop being the highest taxing state in this nation and understand that we're going to create good quality jobs, help California families by letting you keep more of what you earn. That is a huge difference between what we're seeing from this governor who only wants to tax.
And we'll end this question with the Democrat on the stage.
Thank you very much. Well, I've heard a lot of complaining from my fellow candidates here, but the reality is I have not heard a plan. As a JFK-style candidate, I have a plan. Step one, no homeless on our streets within 60 days. We have a very thorough plan for making sure homeless can finally get the dignity and services they deserve. Homelessness costs California $80,000 per year per homeless person. It's very expensive. Then step two, we need to solve the causes of homelessness. We can't be the 5th largest economy in the world with schools in the bottom 20%. We need to teach financial education in our schools. We need to teach mental education in our schools. Provide drug treatment services. $1 into drug treatment services saves us $3 in crime. And with the legislature, I will pass a very comprehensive package to address housing, transportation and traffic, and busing. We will address homelessness and the causes with drugs and mental health. And we will also make sure we have future schools in this state. Now, my full plan is at meetkevin.com, but the reality is once we invest in Californians, then we can lower taxes. And we can make California competitive by cutting taxes on anyone making less than $250,000 to zero once we properly invest in Californians.
Okay, we need to move into round 2 of our questioning tonight, and this shrinks your answers to 30 seconds, okay? So good luck. Governor Newsom, I think everybody would agree, has been dealt a unique set of challenges, everything from the pandemic to the recession, wildfires, drought, civil rights unrest. In your view, what has he done well, and what would you continue? And we'll start this time with John Cox.
This state is a mismanaged mess. I mean, you can't really name anything that this governor has done well. I might have agreed with in the first couple of weeks of COVID where he, cautioned us to slow down, 2 weeks to stop the spread. But beyond that, his pandemic management was an inconsistent disaster. And listen, we don't have electricity, we don't have water, we live in fear of fires, crime is rising. Housing prices are out of sight. Taxes are out of sight. The homeless problem has only gotten worse. And the audit today said that we don't even know what the money was spent for. We got to stop with these politicians and celebrities and get a businessman. We're going to move to Kevin Faulconer,
and a reminder, the question is, name something he's done well, and what could you see continue?
Look, at the very beginning of COVID, we all pulled together as a state. Those are very difficult days for all of us. I was mayor of San Diego, and I had one goal, keeping us all healthy and safe and communicating. But I think the problem we saw from this governor is, again, he went into lockdown mode. He went into a one-size-fits-all policy. That just caused all of the shutdowns, that caused our school closures. That is not the right way to do it. We have to bring people together, as I did when I was mayor, Republicans, Democrats, independents, and I will make sure that we put the facts forward first and move forward in one direction, not a top-down policy.
To Kevin Paffrath now, something the governor's done well that you could see continuing.
The governor's done a great job at branding this election as a Republican recall. Unfortunately, he's wrong. I'm a Democrat running against the governor. That's one thing he's done well, but here's the problem. We have a big threat, and that threat isn't here to defend himself. That's Larry Elder. That's because Larry Elder's with his disinformation friends, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham. Right before this debate aired, he went on Laura Ingram's show. It's time to end the big threat and make sure that Larry Elder does not become the next governor by voting for Kevin Paffrath.
Kevin Kiley, can you name something the governor has done well that you could see continuing?
So the governor actually is my constituent, I should say. He lives in my assembly district. And one thing that he's done well is he does these big splashy announcements, like he did with fire mitigation efforts, which my friend over here pointed out was exaggerated by 690%. There's never any follow through. But what's worse is, kind of the image that should stay with people about Gavin Newsom is the one at the French Laundry, not because of the hypocrisy, but because of who he was there with. A table full of lobbyists. That is who this governor listens to. And what we need in our next governor is someone who will actually serve the people of California.
Thank you.
All right, this is our final question. The integrity of our elections was challenged last year, and one of the candidates in this race, Larry Elder, has promoted unfounded theories that the recall election is rigged against him. Do you believe this election is fair, and will you accept the results of the recall? Kevin Faulconer, first to you.
Said Larry Elder is unfit to serve as governor of this state. Doesn't have the character or the judgment. Today we just found out, by the way, that he supports legalizing some of the most dangerous drugs on our streets in California. That's crazy. That's not just dangerous, it's crazy. Not only what will that mean for our homeless encampments, and it'll grow beyond exponential belief, but think of all of our families and our kids and what those dangerous drugs, opioids, are if you legalize all the heroin, methamphetamine. That's big. No, it's terrible. There's no place for that for a candidate
yes or no,
who's running for governor.
Will you accept the results of this election?
Dramatically worse.
Will you accept the results of this election? Just yes or no?
Yeah, I'm planning on winning, and I can't wait.
Great. Kevin Paffrath, same question to you.
Well, I don't know about the plans to win. Right now I'm beating all three of you in the polls combined, but I will accept the results of this election. I do understand the Secretary of State needs a lot of work. I have a bone to pick with the Secretary of State, but we have to remember, nothing's going to get done. And I'm so worried about California for the future of my children. I have two children. One's 3, one's 5. I'm so worried about the future of California. And a Republican governor will sandbag California for a year as Democrats take complete control until 2022 to win the governorship back.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Kiley, do you believe this is a fair election, and will you accept the results?
Well, it should be pointed out first that actually there is a lawsuit right now to try to cancel the election. And there are people in Gavin Newsom's inner circle who seem to be supportive of this effort. They have tried every step of the way to delegitimize the recall. They called it the California coup. And indeed, Gavin Newsom himself signed a bill to change California law a couple months ago in order to allow the date of the election to be moved to the date where he thought he had the best chance of winning. And so there is no doubt that this election has, the scales have been tilted in favor of the incumbent here. And I think that's why a lot of people distrust our election process.
Will you accept the results of this recall election?
We won't even know when the results will be in, but once it's certified, it's certified.
So yes, you will accept the results.
Once it's certified, it is certified.
Yes, you will accept the results.
Yes, that's the way our law works.
Okay, thank you. And John Cox, finally to you.
I will accept the results, but I'll make it clear that I don't want all mail ballots. South Korea did an in-person election in April of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic because they wanted people to trust. You know, that's what we need, people. We need to get away from the politicians and the media types and all the attacks going on here from the politicians, from the media. We need to get a business person that's actually going to solve the problem. Maryland, Massachusetts have Republican businessmen as governors, and they're the most popular governors in the country because they solve problems. And that's what we need to go to. We need to get away from this partisan politics.
Thank you very much for your time.
Does end round 2 of our questioning. Take a breath. We'll toss it back over to Gulston Dart.
All right, thanks, Deirdre. Great exchange there. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back tonight, the candidates will be making their final statements. Welcome back. We're wrapping up our debate for the gubernatorial recall election. The 4 candidates are ready to make their final statements. They each have 1 minute, and we're going to start tonight with John Cox.
Imagine a California where you can buy an affordable home, where you don't have to see homeless all over parks and beaches, where you have enough water, where you have enough electricity. Imagine a California where you don't have to worry about rising crime or wildfires threatening you, where the taxes don't tax you to death, where you can actually have a decent sense of life. Let's stop electing the politicians and media celebrities who are all talk. I've built a business over 40 years by solving problems and delivering results. I'm not doing this to get a job. I'm not doing this to move up the rung of political ladder. I'm doing this to save this state because it needs to have that done. We need to fix this state. We need to get away from the mismanagement. These aren't political issues. These are management issues, and they can be solved. That's the good news. We just have to have a leader who is interested in solving the problems and not practicing politics.
Kevin Kiley, you're next.
Well, this election is happening because many, many Californians have demanded it, more than ever have signed a petition in United States history, and people of all partisan affiliations, all backgrounds, who look around and see that we have the highest poverty, that we have the most homelessness, that we have the greatest level of inequality, that we have failing public schools, that we have crumbling infrastructure. And they ask, how is it that our beautiful state became last in everything? And as I've seen as a member of the legislature for 5 years, the answer is that we have a broken state government. So if you're someone who is frustrated with the direction of our state, you want to stay here, you want to raise your family here, you want to retire here, but maybe you're reluctant to cross party lines, what I would say is this: take a chance on change. The recall is for you. You're not signing on for 4 years. You're signing on for 1 year. So you can see if things improve, and then if not, you can vote for a return to the way things are next year. But if I'm elected, I think you will see things improve, because my administration will be about back to basics. Pave our roads, manage our forests, store our water, maintain our grid, fund our police, do the things government is supposed to do.
All right. Kevin Paffrath, your turn.
Thank you very much. We've heard a lot of vision from other candidates, but no real plans. I understand my plans are bold. So are JFK's. My plans are to end our homeless crisis, to solve our housing crisis, to solve our school crisis, our crime crisis, our water crisis, and our fire crisis. All the details of which, of course, are at meetkevin.com. But we have to remember one thing. We've got to go out with the old and in with the bold. And that's what I bring, bold plans, because we need this in California. Otherwise, in 20 years, my children, I fear, will ask me why I raised them in a state that's now bankrupt. That is what I fear. But what I also fear, a governor who can't get anything done over this next year, a lame duck governor. And since I am polling the best of the candidates on this debate stage, I would ask them to drop out of the race and endorse me, Kevin Paffrath, on the second part of the ballot, so we can defeat Larry Elder and bring bold change to California.
And Kevin Faulconer, you will have the last word tonight.
Well, thank you. It's time to stop the circus. This is very serious times for our state. We don't want to replace one dysfunctional governor with another. I'm going to bring the experience, the judgment, somebody who can bring our state together. It's exactly what I did when I was mayor of San Diego in a very difficult time when we had a mayor that needed to be replaced, and I stepped in, and we made a huge difference. Somebody who can bring together Democrats, Republicans, and independents, who will provide the real solutions and the leadership on day one. That's the serious stakes that are involved here. It's no time to test drive a governor. And to all of you who are listening out tonight, whether you're a Democrat, independent, or Republican, I ask for your help and your support and your vote. I'm running because I believe that I strongly believe that California's best days are ahead of us. I'm ready to lead on the issues that matter to you. And with your help and support, I can't wait to be the next governor of the great state of California.
All right. With that, gentlemen, we want to thank you for being here with us tonight and sharing your views on what you think the future of California should look like. That is all the time we have. Again, we want to thank all of our candidates for joining us. Remember, voters can vote on one or both parts of this recall, and you can mail back your ballot anytime as long as it is postmarked by September 14th. And you can also drop off your ballot at a secure ballot drop box or a voting location or your county's election office by 8 p.m. September 14th. We want to thank you for joining us tonight for this special debate. I'm Gulston Dart on behalf of KCRA 3 and the San Francisco Chronicle. We say get out and vote. Have a good night.